I am your host, Ben Kuah, and today we will be talking about federation. This idea that suddenly is no longer anathema in Cameroon. A few months back, to utter the word federation in La République du Cameroun, or even the Southern Cameroons, was to land you in jail, tortured, and scorned by La République du Cameroun. Today, that idea is being floated suddenly everywhere. Why? In our show last week, the last Ben Kuah show, in establishing the fact of what sort of resistance, what type of resistance is available to the people of Ambazonian, we painstakingly established the fact of their citizenship, separate and distinct from La République du Cameroun. We established the fact of a duly constituted state that had its constitution with the universal suffrage being the means through which the people govern themselves. That duly constituted state had an executive with the prime minister at the head, a legislative branch with the House of Chiefs, and duly elected members from the counties of that state. In establishing all of that, we established the 56th state of Africa that today has disappeared. What caused that disappearance? In that land, you have stooges from La République du Cameroun parading as Ambazonians who are suddenly talking about federation. You have La République du Cameroun suddenly talking about federation. What federation? There is this noise of going back. Going back to what? Did the Southern Cameroons ever got out of the route of federation and choose another route? Let us establish something here. Take a look at this. We have, by the advent of the vote that took place in April of 1961, the vote of independence that we established on the last show, voted with the map an international boundary of a duly constituted state at the United Nations General Assembly. On that date, we had that duly constituted state. And a prime minister elected by the people of the Southern Cameroons who had a decision to make, irrespective of whatever the trustee Great Britain wanted or other members of the United Nations. He had a decision to make that day. That decision was to either choose the route that the people leading up to that vote at the UN General Assembly for their independence had overwhelmingly indicated to be an independent republic, federation of Ambazonia, an independent state of Southern. All opinion available sources indicated that the people wanted that. Documents were taken to London, to the Queen, to the UN, showing the overwhelming support for total independence of the people of Southern Cameroons. the government of the people, for the people, and by the people of Southern Cameroons took that information to the international community. Through whatever mechanism they had two options. Two, follow the route of total independence as the people wanted, or follow the route that led to what today is being floated as federation. Be my guess to what was followed at that critical point in the history of these people is that route of federation, this route. So what are we going back to? We are already on the route of federation. This is federation. What we have today is federation. Because there was no other option that was followed. The other option was independence. So we are going back to what? This is federation. The BIRs, the rapes, the murders. This, ladies and gentlemen, is federation. There is going back to what? To a constitution? An independent constitution? To a prime minister at the prime minister's lodge in Boya? To a parliament in Boya and a house of... Is that what we are going back to? Do you think La République is that dumb? Because, ladies and gentlemen, if you are telling us that going back, then we are going back to the Victoria Deep Sea Port, we are going back to the Tico Wharf and the Tico International Airport, we are going back to a duly constituted state. And folks, tell me, do you really think that with all that in place, after the rapes, after the murders, after the brutal exploitation and occupation, and elected representatives of Southern Cameroons meeting in Boya will not do what was available to them in 1961 and run up a flag in front of the Prime Minister's lodge? Do you really think that La République du Cameroun is that dumb? Or do the Southern Cameroonians really think, who are floating this idea, that they are that smart? Don't get me wrong. These guys are dumb. But folks, for the past 56 years and some, they have turned us into their women. So, I will be bringing Southern Cameroonians activists, in their own words, to really look at this issue from their own perspective. Is this another form of leadership that is going to repeat sins of their fathers? Are the Southern Cameroons at this critical juncture going to repeat, I begin again, sins of their fathers? Let me welcome on set Southern Cameroonians who have spent their lives, some from the age of 11 or 9, encountering the brutality that federation represents. So welcome on the set of the Ben Kuah show, Mr. Pascal Wongbi and Mr. Rogers Akimo.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, these are two individuals that I have known for some time. I have worked with them. And if there are any two Southern Cameroonians who have felt the brush and who has the aspirations of our people, I don't think that you'll find any two more involved individuals. Just off the set, as we were preparing to come on deck, Mr. Rogers was telling me a story that I would once shared with our audience, because I didn't make mention of your relative, Albert Mukong, whom our people consider one of the shining lights that stood and suffered horribly, that they might be a free people. And you told me a story about how that affected you. Please, can you share that? Because I mean, it encapsulates a lot of what those who are talking about federation today miss, really, for me.
Absolutely. You know, the people who are talking about federation is because they don't know the beast that is La Republic. That is why they are talking about federation. And late Mr. Albert Awoma Mukong was like an uncle, a father figure to me. He's the author of The Prisoner Without a Crime.
Right. I have a copy.
Yes. I think that is a book that every person should read if you are talking about federation and you want to understand what La Republic is all about. That would be a good starting point for you if you have not read it. I was telling you about my experience and how I actually really got involved into this struggle. My first trip to the police station was in, I think they call that place Commissariat Central. It's around the Prime Minister's office in Yaoundé. And he had been picked up. I think he was coming back from Nigeria. He was picked up and brought to that holding facility. So I was asked to go and give him food. I was about 14 at the time. That was my first. I had not been to a police station. So they cooked some very good jama and kati, put it in dishes, and I took it to him, to the police. I got on a city bus. At that time there were buses running here. Yeah. Got on a city bus and got to the police station. So when I came in and I called him, I could look at somebody who is to me like a dad and uncle, came out, bare skin, you know, looking very miserable and shaving, and sat, and I greeted him. We spoke in a dialect. So I asked him that why was he here, and he looked at me and he smiled. That, well, it's a long story, but I was coming from Nigeria, and you know how these people are. And he told me, I said, well, I brought him food because he didn't want me to talk for long with him. So the thing that was so embarrassing to me was that the police officer asked me to taste the food. You can imagine in our tradition, you give you food to go and serve your dad. You are not supposed to eat your dad's food.
Right.
And here am I sitting in front of this stranger, and he's asking me to eat my dad's food when my dad is sitting right in front of me.
They are uncultured people, but I would take that, just what you were saying there, and go for that. You were a child.
Yes.
14 years old.
Yes.
Can you believe that? Let's take this alternate scenario, that there was something in that food. Let's take that alternate scenario, that there was something inside that food.
Yes.
That representative of La République du Cameroun is asking a child to be a guinea pig. Do you understand the scope of that?
Yes.
He is asking a child to take that food and put it in his mouth in the event that that food is poisoned, and he would have watched that child die in front of him. These are the caliber of the people.
Yes, and you make a very good point, because it is good that you brought that. I never even thought of it that way, because what that means is that prisoner was so precious to them,
right?
That they would rather have this child die than that their precious trophy to die.
I mean, think about this, Mr. Pascal, right? Yeah. We are not talking because the assumption when you say somebody to taste a poison food, the assumption is that that person has put poison in that food, and so that person should taste that food himself.
Yeah.
Such that if he had put something in it, he should die. Do you imagine in any civilized society that you believe that a child would poison a food to give, right? That you are asking the child to bear that responsibility.
Yeah.
I mean, can you imagine that?
It all boils down to one thing. You're dealing with a group of people who don't have any moral grounds to stand on. Because, I mean, first of all, there are two things that they have they have brought some sort of an inhumane situation in that particular scenario. One, disrespect. You see that you create a scenario where the child is disrespecting the father, eating of the father's food before handing it off to the father. Secondly, you create another scenario where you don't care about the child's life. If you suspect that something is in that food, you don't care what happens to the child. And these are the type of people that some people are still thinking that we still have to live with them.
Which brings us to that point. You know, in my opening statement, I was talking about the fact that there is this idea when you hear federation now being floated in the land of Amazonia. There is this idea of going back, right? Which, in a sense, tells us that once there was federation in Amazonia, I don't know your opinion. What was there? Is there something that we should be going back to? Was there a federation in the southern Cameroons, between La République du Cameroun and the southern Cameroons?
You want to go first?
Well, let me take it first. First of all, you established during your first show and at the beginning of this show that first of all, there was some sort of a federation that exists. We cheated of our independence. So let's move now to the next phase of the sham federation that exists, and the claim that we're supposed to pick up from there. I think we see that even if there was supposed to be a federation, I can see that there was never a federation, because if there were supposed to be a federation, we're talking about a scenario where the UN, the British, La République, and Southern Cameroons were supposed to sit and draft the modalities of that federation.
The point is this, that there is a fact, they are establishing, right? It's not something that they are saying that sham or that. They are establishing a clear basis that there was federation, and so we are going back to federation.
Well, let's look at how that federation was. Because for a federation to exist, you have to have some. There are different forms of federation, right? The federation that they are trying to describe, you have sometimes what is called a transformation as a unitary state. For example, what happened in Belgium, where a country has grown and it transformed itself into states. That is one country that is transformed into a federation. Then you have a federation that happens from states that come along as a result of previous independent states. Like in the United States, you had you had 13 colonies that started the United States, and other states when they joined the Union, right? So a federation that comes from independent states, we have that in Switzerland and part of Canada and all of that. In our case, when the vote for our independence came up in the United Nations, because we had to be a state in order to be a federation in La République. La République itself voted against us being an independent state. Why do you think they did that? They did that because they had never thought about having us as a federation. They had always seen us as a trophy that was something that they had lost, and it was theirs to take back. So there was no reason for them giving us that independent status for us to be able to merge with them in the kind of status that a federation requires. That is the first thing. So in that case, if you look at it from that perspective, that the La République actually voted against us being an independent state in order to be in union with them, then there was no federation because we were never on that platform. The other thing that we can talk about is something that talks about, systems. Mm-hmm. Because for a federation to be successful, you have to have some kind of an identical system that is in place, right? The culture.
Yeah.
Our culture and the culture of La République is asymmetric. It is not the same.
So, in what way are you basing that on?
Look at the way they are constituted. They rule by presidential decree, right? It is not something that they go to. The president sits in his office or wherever he's in Paris or in Switzerland or wherever he is.
Let me just chime in there. We talk about in what sense. Legally, we have two different legal systems. Our educational system is totally different from theirs. Our way of life, our structures, the way our society is structured is totally different from theirs. So from that perspective, we are two different people.
So basically, what you guys are in bringing this point in, when you are talking about how the society culturally is geared, you are really saying that the Francophone or La République du Cameroun or the French system is a system geared towards a totalitarian, unitary, powerful presidential, mm-hmm. no decentralization of power, mm-hmm. and the basically Anglo-Saxon, right? Mm-hmm. Cultural basis of government is different in that there is
So yes, look at it this way, right? When we were doing elections after the so-called federation had come into place, when we were building elections and competing in elections in West Cameroon, Aheju was banning political parties in East Cameroon. That is just a difference in culture right there. So when he succeeded in East Cameroon, what did he do? He brought that over to West Cameroon, yeah, and took down the federal structure down. So that is what I'm saying, that it is difficult for you to make that argument that there was a federation because there is this asymmetric cultural experiences that makes it impossible for people who had these cooperation agreements with France, mm-hmm. things are designed in France and managed in Yaoundé, for us to actually come into a federation with them, because you cannot manage something like that.
On that point, I have this an article written by Mr. Terence Wakai, dated March 14, that was posted on Abakwa Times. Just in that point that you are making about how the La République du Cameroun and those who support them, their basis or their aim as involve federation, or what they think about federation and all that. I have here Mr. Wakai wrote that French authorities, as was revealed through the pen of one Pierre Mesmer. Now, Mesmer was colonial administrator in Africa from 1952 to 1956, Governor General of La République du Cameroun. In 1956, he became French Minister of Armies between 1960 to 1969, and French Minister of State, Minister of Department and Overseas Territory, right? Just what you were talking about, their cooperation agreement. So you have they actually had they call it independent countries, overseas territories. Mm-hmm. From 1971 to 72, he was that Minister of Overseas. Think about that. 1971, 72, they were independent French countries in Africa, right?
Yeah.
But he was minister of the overseas territory.
Armies, military.
I mean, think about that. Then he became French prime minister in 1972 to 1974. Think about those dates. So Mr. Wakai wrote that this guy, Pierre Mesmer, viewed the then Southern Cameroons as a territory ripe for annexation.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that is the view. That is how they saw us. So I don't know if any person is sitting around today and talking about federation. That view has not changed. So even if they are camouflaging what and trying to push whatever they are trying to push now with their stooges and their mouthpieces, trying to deceive the people, I think the people are able to see through that, because culturally, how these people think, you cannot be setting up a federal structure where the other partner,
It's not a party.
yes, it's not a party. So it is like the three of us are sitting here in some kind of a discussion. I am setting up a federation with Mr. Wombi here, and Mr. Wombi is talking to things that he's talking to me, but he's actually talking to you. So I am just a figurehead sitting here. He is thinking that he's talking to me. So how does something like that work? It doesn't work. So we don't actually have a partner in La République with whom we can actually build a federation, because La République is a territory of the people in Paris. So we cannot.
So what are these guys saying that we should go back to, or the Ambazonia or Southern Cameroon should go back to? What is it? Because then they are saying that something existed that we are going back to.
I just want us to take a step back to this whole stuff about federation. We are really, this is an open society. We should be able to do our research by ourselves, because we have to understand one thing. The idea about a federation, even the constitution, was amended by Ahidjo himself and signed in September, a month prior, before our independence. Before the British brought down their flag. He amended the constitution and signed it.
So what himself. Constitution was it? Was it the constitution of
their constitution, La République's constitution? He amended it on himself, on his terms, and signed off with the pretext of a federation. Southern Cameroons was never a party to the building of that constitution. And under normal circumstances, that constitution was supposed to go into our House of Parliament, House of Chiefs. We look at it, do our amendments, sit together with them and hash it out. It never happened.
The idea is that you probably did not have legal scholars that would have, because I'm thinking about a conclave when you are talking about federal constitution. Or a constitution.
Yeah, well, but see, listen to the argument that he is making, though, because that argument is very, very important on some of the criteria that have to be met for a federation to be set up. The laws, the duly constituted laws of that federation have to be agreed upon by the representatives or members of those constituent states.
Remember, we already had a government, a functional government that was taking care of that trustee territory. We were people of our own. We had a government. They totally undermined our government and did what they did. So
basically, folks, we are coming to the crux of this argument here right now, and it is the fact that a federation formed between a people, one state and another, because for all available history, we know that La République is a trust territory of the UN. The Southern Cameroon is a trust territory of the UN. There was nothing like trust territory 1A, trust territory 1B. They were trust territory of equal status as trust territory. So the point is that either a federation occurred in which people sat on the table and duly constituted a treaty signed to get on the route of federation, or there was none of that, and so nothing existed. Because for what I am hearing from Mr. Wongbi and Mr. Akembon is that one person one party change its own constitution, a constitution that existed on its Independence Day, which was 1960. In 1960, in 1st of January, that he took that constitution and amended it.
Yep.
So there's actually nothing to go back to.
Yes, this is the lie that these people have been telling us, and it is time for our people to see what this lie is all about. Mr. Owe, he makes a point here, and it is very true. And these are things that we have to. If there was a federation, that federation never existed because it was formed. The premise was a lie. This guy came with all the directives that he had from France, did all the games, all the gymnastics that he wanted to do, to deceive us that we were actually going into a federal structure with them, and to explain, to booster that point. That is why we went to Foumban, because we actually went to Foumban to try to make up for some of those mistakes that they had made. And see, when we got to Foumban, they still duped us. So I don't know why people.
The Foumban Council of July was purposely, they were just like an unofficial roundtable discussion.
Come on, gentlemen. It had your prime minister.
No, we had our prime minister there. Quite right, understand.
John Kuah.
Yeah, he was there, but they didn't come out with any official statement. They were discussing on the modalities of how a federation is going to look like. Remember, during that Foumban conference, they were stating that they will be calling the Southern Cameroon as West Cameroon in that federation, and the La République as East Cameroon. Those were just informal discussions that were going on. They were still supposed to hash the constitution on how they were supposed to run the federation. They never came out with anything concrete. It was just like an informal first meeting to sit and talk about how the state was going to look like. That was the purpose. It wasn't really like something as official. Yeah, and we have to understand that the UN, it was part of if we were supposed to come up with a state, two separate but equal states, the UN was supposed to be there, the British were supposed to be there, La République and Southern Cameroon were supposed to be there.
So it
never happened.
I really love this history, and I think that we have established the fact that what the term federation was a sham.
Yes.
Right? But now, something is being sold to the Southern Cameroon's people. Right?
Yeah.
Which is where my
concerns,
my concern or my right, which is where my concern is. Something is being sold to them, and that something is being sold as a panacea, as something good. So let's assume, which is the point. Let us assume that there is this federation, or that this federation, that's something that they want you to go back to. How has the life, because then what they are actually saying is that the life of the Southern Cameroonian, of the Ambazonian, was good under that something, that panacea.
Yeah.
So my point that is of most concern now to the people is that how has the life of the Southern Cameroonian been since you sat down with these people in Foumban? Whether you came out with a constitution or not, or whether it was federation or what, how has your life been? Has it been of the Southern Cameroonian?
Let's first of all talk about what those people are selling now, right? Talking about federation and stuff like that. The first thing that you want to know, if it is a good idea, is to ask if there is a desire on the other side to accept it, right? That is the first thing. If this is something that we are interested in, and our people who work for the government believe that this is the right thing, they don't work for the government. Maybe there are other people have talked to some people and they say, well, federation, maybe that's not. Well, let us assume that what they are selling, does the other side want that federation? And our experience is that the answer to that question is no. Bala and the people were arrested and locked up because they were talking about federation, right?
Prisoner without crime.
Right? Yes. Mm-hmm. So these people have been locked up. Barrister Muna, who is representing them, I think is one of the people pushing this thing, is an advocate for federation, or he has made some comments about something like that. The clients that he is representing were locked up because they were asking for federation. So the other side that is locking people up is not interested in that federation that our people are pushing.
So you think now that this federation is being used in order to subvert the desire of a people who have shown themselves that they don't want anything to do with Larry? You think that they are trying to use it now to subvert the desire of the Ambazonian people?
Absolutely. Why do you think it's so popular now? Because they have seen the resolve of the people.
So a few months ago they were locking people talking about federation. Yes. Now they are floating the idea of federation.
The guy went on his national, on his CRTV thing on the eve of their so-called 11 February when the president addresses the youth, and slammed on the table and said, "Come at whatever he said." But is that somebody who wants to be in a federation with you? So you should look at those images and ask yourself, is this really what these people are up to? All of a sudden, they have a conversion overnight,
the most,
and they're interested in federation.
The most important thing that I want to establish, right, is this fact, right? You are looking at the life of a people. Yeah. You understand? Every policy, government policy and otherwise, any society that sits down, they and come together, they always discuss what is it that benefits the group? What is it that benefits all of us, right? Yeah. The common good. You understand? And so the point, which is fine, and that I'm trying to drive to, the point is this: how has the life? Because if you are going to something, is that I am going to this because my life will change this way. So I'm asking, how will the life of the Southern Cameroonian, when they say go back, right? It means that the life of the Southern Cameroonian in that back will be good, right? Because if the Southern Cameroonian had basis for employment, industries, right? If the Southern Cameroonian had instruments of development, right? Under that system that you are saying that go back to, it means that the Southern Cameroonian is saying that I am agreeing to go back to this because it was good. It was a good life, right? I did not have gendarmes doing kale in my territory and taking. So the point that you understand what I'm trying to drive at.
Yes.
Tell me the good, the panacea that they are selling with this federation was it an instrument of development in your land, or was it an instrument of absolutely sucking your land out of all its desires and hopes and destiny?
Let me make one thing clear. Prior to forming, I call it very clear, the fake union, we were functional. We had a functional system in place. We had a strong and a robust economy. Once we got entangled with these people, their primary objective was to destroy all those economic facets that we had.
So we are talking pre-Foumban. If you take Foumban and what the people term as Foumban was the basis
the moment that
pre-Foumban and post-Foumban.
Post-Foumban. Let me put it very clearly. The moment that the British people dropped down their flag, that the public came into this fake union with us, they had a plan, preset plan, to make us as dependent. All our economic facets were crushed, were totally dismantled. By intent, we talk about PWD Kumba and PWD Bamenda. We used to use those structures to maintain our roads.
It is public works
type of. It was totally dismantled. Caterpillars, everything carried to Yaoundé. they deprive us of that. Cameroon Bank, gone. National Produce Marketing Board, intentionally, was planned. From the word go, they never had any good intention on our territory, on our people.
The point you are making is that when they say going back, you are not going back. So you are not telling me that these are things that they brought into our land.
They
that
were already
this union
functional.
brought in PWD.
No.
This union brought in CAMAC. This Cameroon Marketing Board or Cameroon Bank. This union brought in so what. That is what I'm trying to see what they are selling.
Yeah, so
right?
Let me.
So you are instead telling me that they are destroying. So you are going back to a
let me underscore what you say.
Okay.
Normally, what happens in a federation that works, is that in that federal structure, they will come into West Cameroon as it was supposed to be, and develop WADA, as he was saying. And
WADA being the Womb Area Development Authority,
and develop Power Cam. So you develop those economic.
Power Cam was
the electricity project that we had. So
that provided electricity to the southern Cameroon.
Yes. So those economic instruments, whatever exists in the state, you develop those things in order that the state should be able to sustain itself while paying and prosper while paying into the federal structure.
And all of those things normally would act as an employment for the people of
so that, it would provide employment and all those things for the people. It would provide a bolstering economic base for the people. So the federal structure, the West Cameroon state now would have that economic independence and then contribute into the federal structure,
right?
Because it has sacrificed certain rights to the federal government, like maybe security, diplomacy, and all those other things. So it has to pay into the federal structure. So then those economic activities that are in those territories will be developed in order to sustain that federal state. But what did they do? Because they were not interested in the federation.
Yeah.
It was not a federal project from the beginning. They came in and they dismantled everything and took everything away, so that we can always turn now to look at the schools, right? We had these public works schools in all of everything, the School of Post and Telecommunication, everything in our own territory became an annex. The Teachers Training College in Bambili, it became an annex, and the higher one was taken to Yaoundé. Everything in our territory became annex because they were not interested in building any federal structure. They were interested in.
So what is the selling point? Well, no, gentlemen. I mean, this is incredible. What is the selling point of federation? If you are telling me that the federal system, that from Foumban, right? From Foumban, let us take Foumban. That from there, everything that has happened has been a dismantling of the lives and the livelihood of the state of Ambazonia, right? Of southern Cameroon.
Yeah.
That has been what has been going on.
Yeah.
What is the basis of those who want to sell the people that we can go back to a good time? What are they selling?
No, those people are selling their personal aspirations. To me, these are people who are benefiting. Let us call it for what it is.
Yeah.
These are people who are benefiting largely from this current structure. And they think that the people are so dumb that they cannot see this nonsense of what it is.
I call them the umbilical cord of our oppressors.
What we are telling the people now is that, no, you need to see this thing for what it is. Because these people, they are being sent by Yaoundé to come and lie to us. We had believed in them. We took a leap of faith with them when we went into this union, because we believed that we could trust what they were telling us. And from everything that we have enumerated, they have depleted every single thing that made the West Cameroon's economy run. They have taken it away. Our educational system, they have eroded it. Our legal system, they have destroyed it.
Even Sonara, they pay the taxes in littoral provinces.
Yeah, you call it Sonara because everything is written in French.
Ladies and gentlemen, what do you think? because there will be some of our people. What do you think that those who will listen to the idea of federation, they must have a reason why they might even listen to it and even participate in that? I mean, it's a guess. For you, I can imagine that for you guys, you cannot even imagine a Southern Cameroonian that will even think about federation. But what can you speculate might be a reason why a Southern Cameroonian might look at the situation and say that, you know what, I can take federation?
Well, just like what my colleague has just highlighted, anybody who is selling federation is profiting from our current demise. They are pawns in the game. They are playing their own part because we are gone. It's just for us to put certain things together and get going with our state. We are gone. It's like the Republic trying all the desperate means to do whatever they can do, and they are paying huge sums of money to those people to try to say they can convince us. But sorry,
I mean, one name hasn't come on this show that I had thought that might have appeared here. Muna's
Ben
name,
Muna,
right?
Yes.
One name hasn't appeared because just for something you might look at it. You might look at his point when he said that, you know what, the crisis, not going to federation will plunge the country into terrible crisis, and some people might look that as a basis of fear. Well, using fear. What do you guys think?
We have been under fear. We have been living in fear for the past almost more than 50 years. The Kalis they're talking about, people being harassed, pulled out of their homes. Women are being pulled and raped on the street. So what is there for us to be afraid of?
Well, if he is saying something like that, the first thing that he has to do to our people is to first of all explain how the federation that we had, or the supposed federation that we had,
was working.
How it failed. What happened to it? It was thanks to his father that Honorable Ngumjwa, they overthrew the government of the Southern Cameroon.
Yes.
So I think, like what I said, there are people who benefit from these things, and you can look at their argument. If you look at what they are saying, just look at a little history, and you'll be able to tell why they are making that point. And for the other thing that we have to consider, whether our people need to understand, if you want to look at a federation and if that federation is going to work or not, is to look at the equity. Is it an equitable situation in which you are going in? Mm-hmm. Because if you look at who we are and how La Republic is, that is exactly in my mind why that federation failed, because La Republic is so big, they think that they cannot actually come and debate things with us. And I believe that's why Ahidjo just sat and say, hey, who are these guys? Why should I come and begin to talk to these people? You know, the cube of sugar that Honorable Weber talked about. You know, these people are supposed to have disappeared. You are too small. I don't have to need to come and consult you for anything. So that imbalance in structure will always be there. So our people need to understand, even if La Republic promises you whatever today, they will always look at you as a smaller party in this union, and they don't have to come to you people for anything. So their tendency will always be to engulf us, to pull us in and take us over. So that is what is going to happen in the federation. And let me make this other point. You know, if you look at Quebec, for example, I don't know, it's about twice or three times, I don't know what the real number is, that Quebec has voted to separate from Canada, right? From the federation in Canada. And where does that come from? It is instigated from France. Why?
You know, that is something that I have not looked at. It's really something that I should really take a look at what French politicians and civil society were talking about on the eve of the independence of Quebec.
Yes,
because I can bet you that these guys were gung-ho on Quebec going on its own,
yes,
in spite of the fact that the Queen of England is the head of Canada.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And so it's surprising to me. I mean, I'm taking you off your thought. I'm sorry. It's surprising to me that the English are playing this game. Think about that if the Southern Cameroons, if this was flipped about France would have sent troops into the southern Cameroons.
Yeah, so
To get the Anglophone, if it was an Anglo-Saxon La République du Cameroon, right?
Yeah.
If it was flip about, because that is something that I would take a look at, what French society, political and civil, on the eve of Canadian independence was doing, and the British would need to learn a lesson about how these people are. But please, I'm so sorry to have put you off your point you were making about Quebec.
Yeah, I think as most recently, I don't know, 1991 or 1996 was the last time they voted to separate from Canada. So, and I think it was Charles de Gaulle was still president. He actually said it, "Vive la Quebec libre." Yeah? If my French is right. Yes, you can go into and look at it. So they have always been instigating Quebec to break away from Canada.
You know what? Don't excuse.
Yeah, yes, but I'm trying to.
Don't excuse your French. If it is wrong, I'll be really glad that French is wrong, because that is an FU
to them. The idea here is that they are very, very hypocritical, because they are pushing for Quebec to separate from Canada, even though the people in Quebec don't even have the kind of experiences that we have in Southern Cameroons with them. But they would not even entertain us complaining of our experiences, of the fact that we have to fight for a GCE board, of the fact that we don't have any roads, of the fact that we don't have any schools to go to, of the fact that the military are brutalizing us every day. You don't have to complain. You can't complain. And people who are very comfortable, living comfortably in their country, contributing to the development of their country, where you cannot walk into an office and speak French or English and somebody throws you out, they are asking them to leave their union. And they cannot bear the fact that we are complaining that our people are living in desperate situations.
I see you really fired up, Mr. Akemo. One of the points that in all of this, which was really my closing remark, but I really want you guys to elaborate on, is that can you get into an agreement, any agreement, with somebody whose hands are tied behind? I mean, if you look at heroic figures like Nelson Mandela, who said that I cannot get into an agreement with you, conditional agreement with you people. Does the Southern Cameroon believe that, or these people who are advocating for some sort of a federation or detente with La République du Cameroun, do they believe that the Southern Cameroons can get into independence with a colonized people? Because, think about this. La République du Cameroun today, you talk about the cooperation agreement, the conditionality with which France granted quote-unquote independence to its, after independence they even call them overseas territories, right? Note, in 1945, after France was liberated, this is a country that was conquered and liberated with African blood. Some of your grandfathers fought with African blood, right? This man created the CFA franc. Note, Charles de Gaulle, note that that is a currency that is being used across French Africa today. Do you know what that moniker CFA stood for before Charles de Gaulle transformed it? Let me just read. On December 25th, 1945, General de Gaulle created a currency, the CFA francs. The acronym of the CFA originally meant Colonie Française Africaine. French colonies of Africa. French colonies of Africa. That is the currency, money. In your grandmother's pocket, in her purse, in your grandfather's pocket, the money that is they have in their pockets and all over French Africa has had the moniker Colonie Française Africaine. Ladies and gentlemen, that is, you can steal and hide. You understand? These people are so confident in their subjugation and colonization of tens of millions of Africans that the most, Balladur, this is what French former Prime Minister Edouard Balladur put it. This is how he put it. Money is not a technical issue, but a political one, which affects the sovereignty and independence of nations. Mm-hmm. Are you people or those selling? Are they going to be negotiating on that table of federation with an independent republic or a colonized people confident about their colonization to be carrying money, foreign money, colonies, money made for colonies of France in Africa?
Yeah, and that is what I said earlier about the fact that it is difficult for you to talk about a federation when you are sitting and talking to somebody and there is a third party. So the person that you are talking that you want to get into federation with does not have that liberty to talk with you, because he is sitting and pretending that he is this person, but he is a front. He is a front, and they have always been a front of the French. And that is why I said for a federation to exist in the terms of what a federation is supposed to be.
Two equals.
Yes, and we cannot have it. So I don't know how these people are going to sell this thing. But
so, Mr. Pascal, you are saying that these people need to free themselves before they come on the table, free themselves from...
Sure. This agreement was crafted by France and the Republic. We're not even part of this whole deal. So why should they go and enslave themselves and they want to come and tie us into this slavery? That's why I still argue we are not part of this. This is the doing of France and the Republic. So I don't see, if you were to ask my opinion, I don't see the need. We keep on talking about federation. My point is this. Clearly there was never a federation. The terms that the federation was supposed to be set on, they never laid the groundwork. La Republique's president, the then president of La Republique, Ahidjo, he amended his constitution, signed it single-handedly, and included us in another constitution. That was clear violation of our rights and our state. So when we're talking
about basically no federation,
there was no federation.
So
what I'm saying.
As we close this discussion, there might be some points that I did not touch that you want to make to our audience. If you have any place, if you don't, this is an opinion. As I say, this is an opinion show. You have any opinion to state on this matter, please. You go ahead as we bring this to a close.
Let me go first, then my colleague can take. There is a saying in English that you fool me once, I admit that it's a mistake. You fool me twice, then I'm really foolish. We just need to go back to the history of our country, the making of this fake union. We just have to look at how we have been treated and look at where we find ourselves now. The so-called or the fake federation that we started in, we are leaving that federation till now. So I keep on asking myself, as my fellow comrades stated, what federation are we talking about? Are we not leaving the federation that we started off with? So where are we going back to? We were cheated, abused, rated as second-class citizens in our own territory. I keep on saying, we, the Southern Cameroonians, we are a dignified people, and they have used that gentlemanly spirit that we have in us. They have abused it. But I think this is the right moment for us to wake up and clearly define our independence. We have to do everything necessary to make sure that these annexationists and this colonial regime leave our territory.
So which
there is
was
no negotiation about it. There was never a federation. My own point, there was never a federation. It was a sham. And we have been living the so-called sham federation till now. We've been hoodwinked. And our eyes are open. We can't keep on living in this misery. We can't hand this over to our grandchildren. If our forefathers made that error, we can't keep on living with that same error.
Which is the point as I opened the show, when I was opening the show, I drew this diagram of the why, where I indicated just the point that you are reiterating, where I indicated that there was one route, right?
Yeah.
That was built on quote-unquote federation, that route, right?
Yeah.
They started building on that federation. And I'm thinking that the point that you are making is that don't come and sell us that, we are on a different route, so we should go back to a federation because
this is a federation,
ladies and gentlemen, we are really living that federation, right? Not
yes.
so me.
Yeah, and you guys have made very salient points, and I will go back to reiterate some of the things that I've said here, that the federation was never meant to be, and is never going to be.
Yes.
And the reason I say that, I have put some things forward that have to be like a conducive atmosphere for a federation to exist.
Yeah.
I said at one point that, like Republic, we have to be equal partners. You have to be a state. And when the time came for a vote for us to become a state, the Republic voted against it. So from that vote tells me that they never really wanted a federation. If they didn't want it then, they don't want it now.
Yeah, but the point that
let me just finish. Let me finish where I'm going. The other thing is that we talked about similarities. There is nothing that is similar in our culture with these people. So anything that you are telling me that we are going back to is just going to be a replication of what is actually happening. Right? They are always going to, because of their size, always going to say, no, we cannot listen to these people because we are bigger than you people. You are that cube of sugar that I expect you to melt. So there is no point for somebody to come and stand at your door and begin to tell you that, we should go back to federation, because as you guys have said, this is the federation that we are living. The rapes, the torture, the imprisonments, the killings, and all that kind of stuff, that is that federation.
Absolutely.
So the only reason these people are telling you that, maybe there is something better in the federation that they will probably proposing it to you, they are lying, because they lock people up for asking for federation.
Yeah.
See, every single time we have tried to talk to this, if you go back to the tripartite conference, why did we have all Anglophone conference in Boya? Right? And what happened to the Boya Declaration? If you go back and take those documents and start reading them today, that is 25 years ago.
You're right.
Yeah.
If a child that was not born there and is very versant in this struggle now, you read those documents to them, they will say, oh my God, it's like you just uplifted what was happening then, and you are reading it today. So these people have said no all along. I don't know what kind of conversion. Maybe it is TV Joshua or something that came and preached to them, and all of a sudden they had a reawakening or something. But it is a lie.
And it's a red flag that our people.
Yes, and people should see it for what it is. Don't buy it.
Yes, if a few months ago you are locking people for talking about federation,
yes,
and suddenly you are now, federation, you can talk about it.
Oh no.
That should tell our people that their resistance is working.
And they have the power in their hands as a people.
That their case is legal, is correct.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
I mean,
the people should stay the course. The people should listen to their inner instinct.
Yes.
Listen to that voice inside you that is telling you that let those people come and meet you in Bamenda or in Kumba or in Yumunjok and talk to you about that. They shouldn't sit in Yaoundé. They shouldn't go like Atalanji and sit in the presidency and begin to talk on radio how he has been vindicated. Let them come and meet and listen to your inner voice, because they are sitting far away and believing that, oh, when we talk these things so much and preach it, and the CITV can carry it and lie about it, then all of a sudden the people will believe it. But we are telling them that they are talking to themselves, because the people have seen this game, they have seen this movie before, and they are not going to be duped by this movie again.
I want to once again thank my guests here, Mr. Rogers Akemom and Mr. Pascal Wongbi, who helped me establish the non-existence of any legal status that today are being talked about as the federation between La République du Cameroon and the Southern Cameroons. In my opening remarks, I also brought out a diagram in which I talked about the Prime Minister of the Southern Cameroons, elected by its people, having two options. He had two options: to follow what others were telling him, or to follow the aspirations of his people. To make, in fact, what the United Nations had already voted and granted him, or to succumb to international politics and rigmarole. Other people, other nations, from Nelson Mandela to Robert Mugabe, did not have, to Patrick Henry in the US, who famously stood and said, "Give me liberty or give me death." They did not have the platform granted to the Prime Minister of the Southern Cameroons. The Lumumbas, Kwame Nkrumah, these are people who stood and demanded the independence of their land. They did not have they did not have a constitution. Mugabe had no constitution in his land. He had no parliament. He had no House of Chiefs. His people did not vote in a democratic election to put him as a government. But he stood and says what existed then must be done away. Mandela stood and said what existed then must be done away and went his way. The Prime Minister of the Southern Cameroons had all the platforms, a state in his hands, and choose a route that put him on the course that we are today. And don't let nobody tell you that we are not on that course that he went. That course that they call federation, which, as my guest ably stated, did not exist, because the other party sat down and just changed its constitution without any due representatives from the Southern Cameroons and state that they have incorporated the Southern Cameroons. And their statements from them, from Messner, Pierre Messner, talking about how ripe the Southern Cameroons was for annexation. Their dismantling of parliament, of the premier, everything, all the economic and social underpinning of the state of Ambazonia from that day forward establish their reason, as Mr. Akembom stated, of them voting against, together with France and all the French colonial territories, at the halls of the United Nations when the vote for independence of the Southern Cameroons came about. So folks, this is not a joke. This is a machine that had been rolling up our people. And if you think that these people ever in the back of their head had any idea of coexisting with you, then you are not only as dumb as they thought you were and took you for, then you have a fatalistic life, because you believe that you don't have a life. They, from the very beginning, were not interested in cohabiting with you. They were not interested in colonizing you. We talk about colonization today. They were not interested in that. They were interested in totally wiping you off the surface of the earth, because they know this. So long as one Southern Cameroonian lives, they have all, he has or she has all the legal background to re-establishing that state of Southern Cameroons. So the coexistence would be that one day a few intelligent Southern Cameroonians will get up and say that, you know what, we have been living a lie. So from the very moment, it was a problem, a process of elimination. That is why. I mean, we can talk about colonization. It is why St. Muna did not remain in the Southern Cameroons as Prime Minister. If it was cohabitation that they wanted with us, or colonization, they would have used their stooge. St. Muna today will be inhabiting the Prime Minister's lodge and serving La République du Cameroun as the President of La République du Cameroun today serves the Prime Minister of France. St. Muna would have been the good citizen, the house slave. They would have left it in Allah as a house slave, because this is what happens, ladies and gentlemen. When you have, say, in slavery, the house slave is raised up to be a symbol to the field slave. That you run, you try to run away, you try to get independent out of the master, you know. But this is somebody that looks like you. Look at where he is. He's almost like the master, eh? He's almost like the master. That is what they do. When they want you to be a productive member of an ecosystem where they coexist with you and you work for them. That in that case, they will take people like Pobia, the colonizer. I mean, Britain, France, they will take them and put them in their schools, put them through their paces. They become a brainwashed and, good citizen of the colonial empire, and then they send them to their land as viruses to infect their land, to show the uneducated masses, right? The quote-unquote uneducated masses, those who haven't gone through their colonized schools and shown the good life as a good colonial citizen. They will come and they will be like your brothers. You see them, they look like your brothers, and they inhabit the position of power and serve their master. That is how they colonize. So St. Muna would not have been evacuated to Yaoundé. He would have been left in your land to serve them. But because they weren't interested in your colonization, they put him. And so we can go through their paces. So that is why you don't get entrance into queues. If they were interested in colonizing you, they would take your citizens. They will select Southern Cameroonians and put them through institutions like queues. That's why you don't get access there. And those people they will send back to your land, and you see doctors, they come from queues. Oh, and then our citizens start aspiring. You know what, queues is such a great, I want to go to queues. Because they see people who look like them serving their masters in Yaoundé. But they are not interested in that. Oh no. That is why our schools, you look at our school, our institutions, Sacred Heart, great institution, is almost turned into a francophone. Right? You look at all our schools, they are teachers. So instead of those colonized individuals teaching in our classrooms, they are sending actual La République du Cameroon citizens into our classrooms, into our courts. Where are they allowing those our citizens who should be teaching in that classroom or be judges in our courts? Where do they go? They start going to the village. Do you think that it was just a matter of fate or just natural occurrence that the Native Americans, the first Americans, the people who had America before America was quote unquote discovered by the Europeans, do you think that it was just by chance that they found themselves in concentration camps in the villages? Did you think that the South African villages who lost their lands and white families just took over huge swaths of land and turned it into farm? Do you think that it just happened and they were just eliminated? Do you think that just happened? Did you think the fact that almost 90%, more than 90% of Zimbabweans, the black African in Zimbabwe, had just 3% of the productive land of Zimbabwe, and 3% of that population had 90%, more than 90% of the fertile and arable land in that country? Do you think that just happened? Do you think that the establishment right now of a Foumban inside the southern Cameroons in Mendankwe, a La République du Cameroun Foumban, that is the chief, can sit down and pick the soil up and hold and say that they are blessing the soil, calling the spirits of the land to purify, that he can do that in the southern Cameroon? Do you think that that is just a normal occurrence and it's not the end game, where suddenly we lose the classroom? We don't have any industries. We lose the classrooms. We lose the courts. We lose the land now, and suddenly our people starts going. You start finding them in village, in enclaves. The teachers who should be teaching are now in the village looking for land to be farming. The justices and lawyers who should be in court and start. That is a process of elimination, folks. And if you don't believe this, then believe someone who you cannot tell me is a flaming Southern Cameroonian. Believe someone who, to him, power doesn't lie in Boya, it lies in Yaoundé. Someone who has never believed the fact that the Southern Cameroonian people should have their destiny in their own hand. Believe Fundi, John Fundi, the great leader of the SDF party, who did wonders to transform La République du Cameroon, who actually won the election of La République du Cameroon, but today is not able to call himself president of La République. Believe him, because he stood in front of a crowd of Southern Cameroonians and made this statement that, you know what, the sisters, Catholic sisters, told him that in a few years' time, more than half of this crowd will be dead. And more than half of them will be dead. And why did Mr. John Fundi, this person who nobody can tell us that is a flaming Southern Cameroonian, why did he make that statement? He made that statement because, as he said, when any gendarme, police, or army in La République du Cameroon is diagnosed with AIDS, the AIDS virus, they are transferred into the southern Cameroons. These are the people who, when they do this Kali, they rape our daughters, they rape our mothers, they rape our sisters. And that is a biological warfare. That is the elimination, not colonization, not federation, not coexisting. That is the elimination, that they are eliminating us. Absolute, total elimination. Something that Father Fonte discovered when they came around injecting girls in schools, that they were vaccinating them. And this priest, a man of God, but a science guy, took one of those their vaccinations and discovered that they were actually sterilizing southern Cameroonian Amazonians, ladies, so that they don't give birth. He was shot in his own church. Folks, this is what there's people who are parading around talking about federation. This is what they are pushing you towards. This is your history. So when we keep rigmaroling, when we keep thinking that we have time, we don't. We don't have time. We are being eliminated. They are already planting chiefdoms in our territory. So they have eliminated us in a process that land is open now, that they can actually implant their citizen, which is the end game of their goal. The time for absolute unshakable resistance is now. Not tomorrow, not next year, not through the courts. Southern Cameroonians right now, to be able to maintain their lives, need to, with everything that is in their bottom, in the bottom of their stomach, need to absolutely engage in the resistance and get these people out.